Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of Genshin Ranked. I'm your lead developer, Cuddles, and joining me on stage today is my associate dev, Joe Man, and we also have another guest with us tonight, KurticusZen.
Hello, I am here. You can call me Kurt, by the way.
Oh, hey Kurt, what's up? So, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm a streamer for Genshin Impact primarily, but I focus more on like optimizing dolphins, so to say, like C0, C1, C2, and R1 players. So with that, we get into like pick ban. I've run a few pick ban tournaments myself, and we also hosted the Joe Olympics earlier this year.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's really cool how you guys build that community of competitive-oriented players, and it's especially seeing how they've assembled their own team to challenge the world in 3v3. We're so glad to have you on board with us today, and the audience too. Everybody here is part of a great dream to spark the esports scene in Genshin Impact. So without further delay, Joe Man, let's get this show on the road.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm Joe Man. I'm super excited for today's match. Yesterday's match was a blast to cast and a blast to watch. So I'm hoping today will be just as exciting. We've got a great showdown here between two really experienced teams tonight. So let's go ahead and take a look at that bracket.
And speaking of this bracket, it's going to be that top match. Our previous match yesterday was the Sanus Travelers versus Chiori Glazers, and the Sanus Travelers will be advancing to the semifinals. And today's match is going to be Touch Grass Together versus Kurt's team, the Musk Reef Refugees. Both of these teams are in their debut season, but we'll have to see which one stands on top. At this point in the quarterfinals, they faced off against a challenging preliminary set of bosses as well as an intense round of 16. But here they are tonight, ready to take the stage and advance to the semifinals with a chance to compete for a $1,000 grand prize. Again, teams will draft bosses, pick banned characters, then speedrun as a team of 3 to work towards winning a best of 7. Each team is comprised of 4 players, while the world is 3 in a ref. This gives teams safe options if they need to strategize their drafts amongst each other.
All right, let's go ahead and look a bit more into our teams. So we'll start off with Touch and Grass Together. They're a real mixed bag. They've got some co-op Spiral Abyss gamers. They've got a few veterans from Spiral Abyss drafting and a few ranked veterans. So it's really exciting to see just a group of friends kind of coming together to create this team.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They have like this focus on having especially like good gameplay too, because you know, being free to play or lower investment, they do have to kind of min-max the damage they're able to get. So they happen to have really nice builds, but their roster might be a little bit inflexible, but that roster didn't seem to matter when it came to prelims because they ended up in 2nd seed.
Yeah, I mean, really strong. But on the other side, MMR, these guys are fairly new to ranked here, but like all of them, Spiral Abyss veterans, so they know what they're doing when it comes to strong characters and strong builds, certainly.
Yeah, and we'll get into this a little later, but as Kurt has pointed out, they have a very unique drafting perspective. So I'm really curious to see whatever the boss picks are going to be. And they have some very unique cons and characters due to just their investment level. But again, you know, they didn't play super well in the prelims, but they had a pretty strong performance.
Yeah, last game they pulled out a C6 Ito, which is not a very common character to see, but it really brought them the win. And so I'm excited to see what happens with that today.
Yeah, should we go over and take a look at some of the players?
Certainly.
All right.
So starting off with TGT, headed by Rion, a really experienced player here in ranked, has played quite a few games. Season 3 BRT veteran, so like tons of experience and a really strong competitor here.
Yeah, I think her key asset is going to be her C4 Tartaglia, which is funny because we don't see a lot of Tartaglia in ranked, right? But I think it's still going to be a very nice experience to just see one out on field, maybe in the draft. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe something will happen. But then also we have Foster, and I do know that he is a Spiral Abyss competitor, having played in Happy Gaming Cats and also having played with Kurt Core before. I think he's also been on the English, was it Genshin Championship before? The Spiral Abyss one. It's pretty cool. He's going to be running probably a Milani or a C2 Wanderer. You want to look for him on field. Yeah, let's see what else. So for Lemmy, well, also, Lemmy and Miles, the other 2 members of TGT, they both happen to be prior H. Kaizen Co-op Wars players, both on the Sanus Travelers playing together. Lemmy's going to be on Lin, or was it Linny or Yoimiya? And also Miles is, sorry, this says self-proclaimed best free-to-play Raiden Hu Tao. And
yes, Miles is their free-to-play
mean?
player,
Yeah.
so representing the free-to-plays. But he's got a very strong vertically invested account. Like you said, the Raiden and the Hu Tao are very strong picks from him, and more unique with the Raiden, so that might be an easy character for them to pick.
Yeah, and then the other note that he wanted to tell us was that he won a Spiral Abyss tournament before. With someone else on his account. But you know, hey, credit where credit's due, right?
It counts. It definitely counts.
Love you,
Certainly,
Miles.
certainly.
All right.
I'd also like to offer Foster, just to offer something for Foster. I think for a little bit he took a break from pick banning because he was participating in pure speedrun competitions, which is actually a different type of format. So there's another notch in his belt.
Yeah, I know for a fact Foster's definitely been one of the more experienced solo players, but it's really interesting now seeing that he's getting put on a team.
He also dominates my server's Abyss Showcase channel. Like, he has most of the posts there.
Pretty good. I mean, you know the Muskies, the Musk Reef refugees a little better, Kurt, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Okay, we'll start with Chrome, who I don't think is playing today, but they do have access to his account. But he's big on Spiral Abyss pickban. He was in Happy Gaming Cats for a really long time, and I think he's one of the writers for the Spiral Abyss drafting theory paper, which is like 25 pages long.
Yeah, I think
all
I think
text,
there's
no
like
pictures.
No, wait, no, there were pictures. Okay, I remember
Okay.
there were diagrams. I remember there were figures that we had to label.
Yeah,
but
he listed them as figures, right? It was like actually
I-
a research paper.
to be fair, I was the one who told him to format it like that. But I remember he was like lead author. He was either lead author or like second author on that paper. I remember he did a really good job.
Yeah, a while back I was planning on writing a Pickman YouTube video guide, and I remember asking him if I could plagiarize his paper, and he asked you if it was okay, and then I was like, okay, cool, and then I never made the video, but it's a work in progress.
What else can you tell us about the other teammates though?
So next we get into Bobo. He's a healer main. That's what I remember the most from him. If you go to his TikTok page, I think one of his pinned posts is like the highest healing you can get in Genshin Impact, and it's a Kokomi that heals an outrageous amount. He's farmed a clam far too much. If you run optimizer on his account, most of his characters will just get clam sets because he has clam sets that have 250 CV all over the place.
I can't believe like you have to optimize the character a certain way to get that right.
It's because he doesn't farm anything else, but also because he farms clam far too much. Next we have Lin. He's one of the TGH Drafting Hub Spiral Abyss community leaders. So he works a lot on like balancing for that side of Pickman. But additionally, in terms of like what he loves playing, he loves Dendro characters. He was one of the first players on my server to get a C2 Emily and start messing around with C2 Emily. And this guy loves Kaveh. When the what's it called, the reaction buffs came in this patch for Chaska, the first thing he did was like go into the abyss and try Kaveh Shatter Bloom, which I think cleared pretty decently.
Can you explain us the reasoning behind Kaveh Shatter Bloom? That's a very interesting...
So the idea is it uses the fridge reaction, which you may or may not know, where it uses cryo to protect the Dendro, so you can get more blooms out of it. But Kaveh is also a claymore, so he also shatters. So he's the trigger for the blooms, and he's also the trigger for the shatters. So he double dips? Question mark the EM.
As much as you can, I guess.
I mean, and then Sap. I feel like I don't need to say anything about Sap. He won last week purely on his love for Ito. The first time he got C6 Ito, I remember him spamming our theory crafting channel with every variation of Ito infusion. Like, he was trying out Vape Ito with a Bennett C6. He was trying out Melt Ito with a Chongyun. This guy, like, it should have been...
This guy.
It's been a long time coming for that C6 Ito win, I'll be real with you.
I think it's gonna be great because I have a feeling he'll be able to showcase it today as long as TGT doesn't just pocket ban him. But I mean, hey, who knows?
I mean, we've seen with Lurkin that
Pocket banning.
sometimes it doesn't matter if you've got a strong character if it's just always banned. So if TGT just bans it outright, it might be over. But I think if they're able to get that Ito, that could be something to just completely carry them.
Pocket banning Ito might not be a terrible idea for this guy.
I mean, but hey, that's a free ban for MMR, and they still have so many other options.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean,
in terms of like their drafting strategy, I will say I feel like I've gathered a very strange crew on my server because the first time I played Pickban, I ran Electro main character Hyper Bloom on stream in Cardi Cup. So the kind of person who watches that is the kind of person you're dealing with today.
Oh no, it's just silly. Do you want to go in and let's do a coin flip, huh?
All right, yeah.
All right.
So-
Okay. So let's see. So because we're going by seed placement, of course, TGT is the higher seed in the bracket, and they have chose heads for their coin flip. So let's go ahead and see what the actual coin flip is going to go for, and it is, unfortunately for TGT, it has landed tails, and it does look like the Muskies have elected to pick the first half. So Musk Reef will be on team 1. And it looks like Touching Grass Together is going to be on team 2. So I wonder how that's going to affect their draft. I mean, it might affect their rosters in slightly different ways, but I mean, for the most part, we'll just have to see how that goes, right? Let's go ahead and let's get ourselves into the draft screen, right? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see. I think a strong ban from TGT here could be that Shillinen. Like we said, the Ito can be really strong, but I think in general, Shillinen could be a more universal ban. And without Shillinen, the Ito might not be able to fully carry MRR. So I'm guessing a Shillinen ban is going to be the first one.
Okay, wait, this is counterintuitive right here, though, because EFG is a geo counter, unless they're planning to just play Ito straight through it, maybe with the Shilonen. You know, last time they did Shilonen Farina, right? So a double support Ito hyper carry. But I don't even know if that's going to be an option for them this time around.
I mean, it was enough for them last time. Last time they were able to just completely shred through EFG despite its resistance.
Ooh, pretty. Seahorse, you know, that's pretty good for any team that likes to use Cryo, likes using Pyro. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get that out of Rion at all. Maybe like a Arlecchino or maybe a Linny. Sorry, from Lemmy. Got a little confused there. But so far, it's still too early to kind of like read what they're going into. But the EFG ban or the EFG pick is just really interesting coming from the team that has Geo.
Yeah, it could be interesting if TGT goes all in on this strategy. They could pick something like Electrovine to get even more, get another boss that really needs lots of that Cryo and Pyro.
Okay, but
and Golem.
And now they turn it around and they decide they still want their Geo, so I guess...
mean, this is what happened last time. It was Golem and EFG, so maybe they're just trying to go same bosses as last time. And APEP from TGT. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, that is a pretty aggressive choice for them right there to select APEP, but I mean...
APEP is one of the few bosses with a bit of AoE, so characters like Nuvolette really shine. So if TGT is able to get what I like to call Rion Taser, which is Nuvolette, Chlorend, plus either Kazuha or Shillidan,
hey, listen, man.
That could be incredibly strong.
You know, if you come up with a good enough team comp and you end up sweeping enough teams, you know, you kind of just get that... You get that name in there, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and here we go. Thunderbird. So, I don't know, I'm just... Wait, but this came from Team 1 side, right? So, I think both teams might be vying for the same characters, might be both vying for a Pyro, TPS, or some Cryo, just from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But it does look like it's going to be quite anti-Dendro with APEP and Mountain King, so...
Sounds like we're not getting a Kave today, guys.
Oh, no!
Dang, I was really waiting to see Lin pull out that Kave right there.
I was really expecting to see Kave today, seeing as he's just such a great character.
You know, what if Seahorse actually triggers the Hyper Bloom on itself? You know what I'm saying? Like, surely. But here we go into the Musk Reef Refugees' first pick for a ban, and I think they're still a little hesitant on it, but they ended up going with Nuvolette. Very safe choice. And I
We're
think
gonna
that's just
see
gonna...
a lot of overlap on these players, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And oh, there they go.
There's
Farina is another good first ban pick coming from Touch Grass Together. So
Yeah, that was their strongest support. That was what really helped their Ito last time. So without the Farina, that
Yeah.
might kind of put a dent in some of the MRR's teams.
Here we go. Let's see if they do a Bennett Shilonen Gambit right here. If Team 1 decides to accept the Gambit or decline it. Because, I mean, I don't know what their Bennett options are, to be fair. I'm not too familiarized with either of these teams. I just have a general idea that Touch Grass Together plays a little more conventionally. Oh, and they knocked the Milani out early.
Milani.
So,
Smart, actually.
Ooh.
full anti-Hydro.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very smart pick. If you're going to allow Shilonen and Bennett, and you're going to take Bennett, letting the other team get Shilonen and Mualani is so dangerous. So
Oh,
that's a
and
very
they,
smart pick.
yeah, Gambit accepted, right? So now we have Bennett and Shiloh open. I feel like Team 1 has to just take that Shilonen, because if they don't, then they don't get to play that Ito. But we could be focusing on something else. you know?
Kazuha is still there, and Kazuha is arguably stronger than Shilonen for Seahorse. So I think Kazuha is also a very strong pick here, and for APEP, honestly.
Yeah, I was
but-
just thinking about APEP.
man.
You get the grouping too.
Yeah, so maybe if I were them, I would probably take Bennett here, just for Seahorse.
I don't know,
But
but
I
with
don't
only
know.
a few seconds left on the clock, I just have to see what these guys are going for, and it looks like they go for the Shilonen. They're committed.
Yeah.
There it
They
is.
want the Ito out, so here they're gonna get it, but it's
I
gonna
mean,
come at a
Ito's still
price.
available, unless it's sniped by TGT. But,
Surely
you know.
TGT picks Ito here. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got one more pick, maybe.
Unfortunately, I'm reading this right now. I have a feeling. Oh, they got
Arlecchino.
Pyro Wheelchair, everybody. The Pyro Wheelchair comp of 3v3. Arlecchino Bennett. You can't escape it. You can't run from it. It's just there.
All right. Well, I'm guessing MR is still going to have that Ito Shilonen, but they're not going to have the Farina this time, so it's interesting to see if they might go with another DPS, because there's not really another support that fits in well there.
Maybe like a C6 Ayaka for the Death Shroud. Surely.
Do they have a
Yeah.
C6 Ayaka? That could be a thing.
Chrome has
I
a
mean,
C6
Chrome
Ayaka.
has the Ayaka, but
Chrome
I don't
has
know.
a C6 Ayaka.
But let's see.
Yeah, could be.
Oh, they chose Yelan.
Yablon pick. That's a pretty smart pick, but at the same time, I don't think TGT is going to go for that Yelan now that they picked Bennett. But it's a good pick for MOR.
Yeah, I mean, like, they could also, like, run a mono, but I was gonna say, I take that back, actually, because all the Hydro is currently missing due to the bans. So, very interesting move to allow whatever was open, but hey, if they both want to play powerhouses, this is their chance, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, Yelan is one of the strongest mono DPSs in ranked right now.
there he
in
is.
terms of Riot.
There's
There's
the
the
boy.
Ito.
There he is.
We're all expecting it, of course.
I mean, to be fair, though,
Alright.
because if they didn't pick it, they'd get banned on turn 4. So,
Of course,
Not really
yeah.
much of a choice.
They kind of had to pick it there. If they were going to play it.
yep.
And
but
with
now,
that move, they have won the popular vote.
Interesting to see what the last
unfortunately,
pick-
unfortunately, the associated refs have not called this race as they are pulling out a Ganyu, and this looks like it's going to be an interesting melt comp. I mean, this is powerful. You're talking about really good melts. You're talking about really good pyro application too. I mean, this is just a pretty much free team as you can get. But I do wonder
Yeah.
what their player distribution is though, because Rion's Ganyu is really good, but so is Rion's Arlecchino. So I'm going to be really curious to see who's playing the Arlecchino, who's playing the Ganyu.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams right now, Shilonen Yelan Ito and Bennett Arle Ganyu,
Yeah.
are both extremely strong teams that are going to clear fast. So
It looks like they went with a no ban, actually. That is
Interesting,
that
they
is an
ran out of time.
interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
It looks like they overthought it, but that's gonna be something we'll have to see.
yeah, but I think Team 2 still has a couple different options if they want to go for it. They can still pick Kazuha if they want a bit more application for Seahorse. But honestly, I think the team they have right now can kind of clear all these bosses pretty well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that. Oh no, they did. In fact, match is still going. They did ban out that Kazuha.
Speaking
wonder-
of that Kazuha right there, yeah.
They heard you. They heard you, Joe Man. Oh no.
But Chaska, exactly. And that's the problem, is that Kazuha ban is not as strong now with Chaska in the mix, because the other team can just take Chaska. I still think Kazuha is a bit stronger here just for the application on Seahorse, but like This is a really good team, no matter what characters you pick out of those 4 for TGT.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of flexibility available in their roster. You know, at this point, they can kind of play whatever they want. It's a real question of what the Muskies want to play if they don't have an option for Geo. And there we go, a Clorinde. Beautiful addition to the picture. So, I mean, that's kind of a mixed taser right there. I mean, you got Clorinde, you got the Yelan, you got the Shilonen. That technically is a pretty.
They almost have Rian Taser, and they're MMR. Just missing the Nivelette.
Just stole the team.
Sap taser, actually.
They did kind of steal the team.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what their next pick is going to be, but I think at this point, they're just they seem really confident enough in the Ito that they're not really thinking about anything else right now. So I think they're just taking their sweet time.
Yeah, well, I think both teams just have good picks right now, so there's not much either team needs. Lenny, I think that is probably the best pick they had there.
Yeah, great snipe. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Chaska already being there on team 2, I think Lenny could have also been a good pick, or maybe Lenny instead of Arlecchino, but maybe it comes down to player difference, individual preference, because sometimes the range versus the melee, you know, you gotta decide.
Yeah, and Lenny can also sometimes be stronger than Arlecchino in those mono comps, or when he's just being the applicator for Ganyu, so it's definitely smart to take that as a...
Oh, and they lock a Chevreuse. Interesting. You know, I feel like that has to be a steal pick. I think Team 2 is definitely locked down with their choices already.
I disagree. I think it's going to be a Chevreuse Raiden. Like I was talking about before, Miles does have the Raiden sitting
he
there.
can Raiden Bennett or Raiden Chevreuse.
Yeah. I don't think that's a very strong team, but it could be just a backup team just in case, since they've already kind of got their main team.
Personally, I just don't think it's going to be a strong team because of the fact that they have 2 Electro bosses in the roster.
Yeah, the bosses make Raiden seem not good, right?
Yeah, so...
Yeah. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it is just to shut down the Clorinde Lenny.
And a Tainari. Okay, burn out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it's literally just there to shut it down. Just a ban pick.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this honestly works out super well, especially for Seahorse, especially for Thunderbird. You know, you got 2 ranged characters, both with good reactions. You got Bennett buff for both of them. Like, what more can you really ask for coming out of that? It's just a little bit of a skill difference here when you start getting to Thunderbird, especially.
Yeah, it's going to be whichever team has more practice with the enemy. So, interested to see.
Yeah, and as MRR decides on their final pick, and okay, that's...
Story!
Okay, that's textbook MMR, what can I say?
I mean, they really didn't need anything else.
They
kind
knew.
of a flex pick.
They decided to lock it in.
I've seen Bobo play Dory Clam in some pick bans, if that is meaningful to you guys at all.
Can't the Dory play on Thunderbird. That'll be glorious.
Yeah. We're just gonna go ahead and wait for matches to load right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and get our board set up. On our first team, we're going to have Wafer reffing Team 1, aka the Muskies, and we are going to have Aosera reffing Team 2. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch everybody over to that now.
What do you guys think? Do you think a specific team has really won this draft? I feel like both teams have some really strong options here, so I think they both drafted well, and I don't think there's really an advantage to either team right now.
Yeah, I think it will be a lot more coin flippy than I thought it will be, especially just thinking about, you know, Yelan instead of Farina for Ito is going to be interesting. It's definitely not as strong of a hyper carry, but Yelan's own damage with Shilonen is going to be very powerful, so I think that's something we'll have to look out for on the first side. But then on the second side, you know, you're asking for literally just any Bennett team, right? You know the guy's broken, you know the guy's strong, but I mean, they let it through. They gambited it all for Ito, what can I say? So...
Yeah. So, honestly, I'm thinking here, Seahorse, that seems like a pretty obvious TGT win. They've got Cryo and Pyro galore, so I think they just have enough to take it down insanely quickly. But at the same time, Golem, I think it's just an easy win for MMR. That shield break is going to be insanely fast, along with the res shred. So I think each team has a couple bosses that they're just easily going to win, and the rest are just whichever team plays it better, whichever team has more DPS.
Yeah, I will say, because like if you look at, oh, interesting, they threw Lemmy on both the supports. Again, I don't think that Chevreuse was really intended to be there, but you know, It definitely was something they were looking more towards. For
I
like
just been there to stop them from stop Team One from using it on Seahorse. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, hey, they committed. What can I say?
Popsicle here says they think that TGT's teams fit the bosses way better. I agree, actually. I feel like I mean, maybe I'm now the one who is underestimating the Ito, but I feel like TGT has more flexibility into the bosses that we're fighting today.
Yeah, especially like at least reaction wise, right? You know, like
Yeah.
with this lineup that you're thinking about, you know, you have Dendro, you have Cryo. I think especially into Electro bosses, and you have that Pyro driver free. I mean, that's pretty much most of the reactions in the entire game that you need to really cover.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much thought the same thing when MMR played the other day, but then they went ahead and got a 34-second on EFG with their Ito hypercarry team. So Ito, Yalan, Sheldon might be stronger than we think. We might be seeing low 30s here for EFG, but we'll have to see.
What times are we looking for on each of these bosses? I'll admit I'm not super familiar with ranked, so.
My understanding is that Drake, you're usually aiming for about a under 30-second time if you're a good team, and then close to 30-second time if you're most teams that get through draft. But then for EFG, you know, 30 seconds is pretty good. As long as you can clear it before the rotation, it's pretty good, but sometimes you don't get that clear, so you can't really be too upset about it. Seahorse, 27 is usually a pretty good metric. 25-27 is pretty good for a lot of teams. Golem is interesting because if you're a Geo team, you know, your expectations are like 30 seconds, but if you are not a Geo team, then that can take up to like a minute if you're not well prepared. APEP, you're looking for about a good teams will clear in 130, maybe 145, for most average teams. Thunderbird should also be about 30 to 45 seconds. Mountain King, again, you're looking at maybe 30, maybe 40. So these fights, as long as everybody is playing well and to the top of their ability, these should actually be pretty short. I don't think this fight will be dried out super long except for APEP, where I think MRR doesn't really have the same grouping ability that TGT does. Because at least TGT has like major AoE, but then you're running around bonking everything with Ito, right? So you're playing whack-a-mole over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'll be whichever team is able to line up the rotations better. And seeing as TGT was the one that picked APEP, I'm guessing they've practiced it at least a bit, so they might know the rotations well enough to come out on top there.
Interesting here. You can kind of see how the Elan team's doing. Especially, it doesn't seem like it's anywhere nearly as fast-paced as the Farina team was last time for Ito. I think they kind of came to the realization that Ito was great in the hyper carry when he was made the hyper carry, but splitting the damage for him, I don't know if it's really going to cut out in his best interest.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a 45 seconds clear against Mountain King here.
Yeah.
Maybe worse.
Although I will say, if you do look at the bottom, TGT is slightly struggling a little bit trying to manage their HP fighting against Thunderbird, because I think Foster is like throwing whatever charge shots he can, but I did see her like, you know, just go down over there, so it's gonna be a little interesting. And unfortunately, they got wiped over there. So
yeah, I mean, Thunderbird is a very dangerous boss. But interesting they went with the Tig pick. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's actually going to be a very strong pick just for that one boss, because you're getting constant spreads. But yeah, I think the Golem is going to be a pretty easy win for Team 1. Their last game, they had a 27-56 on Golem, which I believe is the fastest Golem clear we've seen in rank so far.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't think I ever saw it clear that pace before.
So if they can get anything similar to that today with this team, then that should be the easiest win.
I don't think they're going to practice it though, so we probably won't be able to see what happens out of time.
I mean, with the clear time,
they probably
I
don't
think
need
to practice. Yeah, certainly.
I feel like TGT is just kind of writing off Golem. They're like, here's the point, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely guessing we're going to see just a throw here. It's definitely a strategy that we've seen plenty of times. If you're completely not confident in winning the boss, you can go in, get your energy and your bursts and your health up for the next fight, and then just DNF and leave. Which I believe is probably what they're going to do in Golem. But it could also be something that MMR does on Seahorse. personally, I think the smartest thing for them to do on Seahorse, and probably TGT do on Golem as well, is just sit there for 3 minutes, just in case the other team dies at some point. Because if you're able to survive the 3 minutes and the other team dies a minute in, then you win the boss. So
yeah, I think that's like a really antiquated thing that we had from when we first started this project back in March. The idea was we didn't really want people to just be like, because we didn't want casual matches, right? Refs to have to clip every single boss. So we're just like, okay, you know, whoever survives for longer is going to do better. But in reality, it should have been the HP bar. You know, whoever can do more damage to the boss probably should advance.
Yeah.
But that's not something that we really have perfect control over. Unfortunately, just the nature of Genshin Impact.
Also very hard to tell exactly what HP bars are. So it's a bit harder to compare, a bit more subjective. So if we can create a tool for that, we might change that in the future. But as it is right now, it's still a good strategy. On bosses you think you're going to lose, just sit there, run around the arena for a little bit, just in case the other team dies and DNFs.
Kind of a small fun fact. Back in 1.0, we actually had a tool, a community-made tool, that was able to rip the data from the game, so we could see like exact damage counts. And then they patched that in 1.1.
Ah,
It was a big blow to the TC community.
yeah, that's really unfortunate. I've been working on a tool that starts the timer automatically, looking at the HP bar. But I really wish there was a way to just get the data directly from the game. But I'm sure somebody would find a way to break it, which is why they can't quite have that.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting though. Like, I'm watching this team attempt to clear Thunderbird, and low-key, I wonder if the Ito team would be better just for survivability. Because
the Ito team doesn't have to think, right? They just get to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Chaska has like 2 inputs, right? But at the same time, the Chaska team's really not clearing that fast, even with
It's
Bennett.
Ganyu.
Oh, well, keep in mind though that the ref right now is Animo. So in the actual game, the ref will be some kind of patch element. So Chaska will be doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ito just having really high defense and then the occasional crystallize, he just gets the full tank the entire thing, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, like the other comfy option they have is Vape Linny, which I'm not exactly sure, Joe man. Is that really a real team?
It's definitely a team you can run. It's still decent enough to clear a boss. You're looking at sub 40 Drake at least, but I don't think that's going to be enough to compete with TGT's times. Their Arlecchino Ganyu Benny.
Why is that Linny half built?
At level 6. Those charge attacks are gonna be really good.
All right. Well, that's an interesting decision to make, but hey, what can
I have a feeling.
Was the pick to ban from Foster? Was that the pick?
I mean, it was to ban it from Lemmy. I know Lemmy has
Lemmy.
the Linny on the team, but that's still an interesting decision. I mean, to be fair, so is Dory, but I think they committed. You can't blame them.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be sticking with the Ito team the entire time here. I don't think we're going to see much of outside of Ito, Yalanchalin, and maybe the Chlorand will come out at some point, but I don't think so.
And I mean, here we go. If you like supervise their Drake times a little bit, it's not exactly like perfect. I definitely think I've seen better in terms of a Drake clear, but maybe they just need to work on their timing a little more. I think they can perfect it. It's a variation of what I call the Pride team, because it used to be Linny, Ganyu, Bennett as a team. So
pure skill and game knowledge.
So the LGBT, truly one of the good cooks. But again, I'm really curious to see what's going to go on here.
Yeah. I think Mountain King, another thing to consider is having that Pyro. I think that's probably why they were trying to have Linny, is getting Pyro to blow up the seeds or whatever they are. Does deal a pretty significant amount of damage. But I still think that Team 2 has the advantage there, because you can actually melt those hits. If you apply Pyro to those bulbs and then apply Cryo to the boss, each of them is going to melt, which deals a crazy amount of damage. You don't get to see it as much in ranked here, because it's a little bit later in the phase. But if you're taking long enough on the boss that you get to that phase and you have those melts, it pretty much instant kills it.
And so I love energy generation here in Genshin Ranked, you know, just making sure everybody has their
Is that what's happening right now?
yeah, you know, like that's
I was
we found
wondering what was
out.
going on. I was like,
We
oh,
found out
true,
it's
right.
really
They
good
have to
too
do
because
that.
like it creates like a little announcement that people have to see, people have to listen to it, right? So it's
That's
just
a
like a
great
good
idea.
way for everyone to get their energy together before the match starts.
Yeah, lowest level VV domain. It works pretty well.
It's so many particles, dude. Like here, let's watch wait for Cleo's 20 again, right? Kind of insane. Oh, they're making sure Dory has energy, guys.
Oh, thank goodness.
I want to mention actually for the Dory, in Pickban, I was labbing for a brief moment Dory for Yelan Hyper because Dory's flat energy gen makes Yelan not have to run ESF.
Ooh.
Huh.
So I was labbing like Yelan, Farina, Dory, Kazuha before Shalona came out, and the Dory flat energy gen makes it so that Yelan can run for Emergency Hunter.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
It actually
especially
makes
in
it one of the
scene.
highest single target DPS teams. It was just really hard to play because no one knows how to play goddamn Dory.
Yeah, that is the trouble of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I
mean,
think
I've
Lynn's building out the Dory right now.
Surely.
I mean, I've heard C6 Dory is decent enough for Hyperbloom, but Hyperbloom is not a comp you see here very often. So
C6 Dory was an emergency hyperbeam pick for a while, but I am a strong proponent of just EMC hyperbeam.
you seem to be a strong proponent of EMC in general.
Yeah.
I mean, you're also talking to somebody who has Traveler at level 20 and every other character at above level 80, just for the fun of it. So I may be a little biased on the other side. But I think EFG is really going to use...
Pyro MC lets me do Pyro MC Burgeon.
Oh, that could be fun. Finally have someone that's better than Chungling for Burgeon. Surely?
I fear it is not to be, but
no.
I have dreams. I have dreams.
If only. But yeah, I think EFG is going to be the decider here. I think if Ito team is strong enough to win on EFG against the Ganyu team, then I think this might be an MMR victory.
I agree with you, actually.
Wait, they opted for Clorind instead of Clorind instead of Yelan, maybe? That's a last minute switch right there coming from Bobo, but it might be the move that they need.
I feel like Yelan just has more damage than Clorind in most cases.
I mean, yeah,
but I also don't play enough Clorind, so I'm not sure.
I don't know, man. Like, it's really a coin flip at this point, but I don't know. It's so close that you wouldn't be able to TC it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it looks like
EFG doesn't. Well,
Yeah, it looks like Ito does have a fully leveled weapon this time, so might actually be able to clear.
Wait, he beat the records with an unleveled weapon last time?
It was level 80 last time.
That's amazing.
Oh my! Here we go.
So I think
You
that
just
might be
unlocked
even
one
stronger than last time.
All right, it looks
Yeah.
like build check's been passed for Team 1, so I guess we'll just have to see what Team 2 is gonna do as well. I think they're gonna try and start at the same time. We usually like to have that. But it's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be the back and forth, and I think the back and forth is going to decide how this run goes. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah,
Alright.
I mean, it's interesting that they picked Chaska, Team 2, that is. Because I have a feeling Chaska's not really going to come out much. Having Arlecchino, Ganyu, Bennett is just such a strong team. Even though Chaska is a pretty decent character right now, I don't even think she'll be played.
Yeah.
Maybe to stay safe on Thunderbird, honestly, but...
Speaking of
We'll
being
have to see.
played, Lynn says that he should have picked Kave.
So true, actually.
I think that's true. That way you could have had the spreads for Clorend, right? Surely that's worth it over Shillinen.
No, it's so that way the Associated Press would call this race.
Oh, of course.
Here we go. Well, Team 1 is going to go ahead and start off the Muskies, going for a conventional burst opener. I think Drake with that long setup time is where you just really want to maximize your damage. But I find it really interesting, though. Bobo and Sap both going for early ultimates. So I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be the most optimal move. Seeing that their damage isn't exactly cutting through right now, not the same way that it was last match. Banning that Farina was
Yeah, what happened to
definitely
the Ito burst?
Well, I don't know. It kind of got lost.
Did he
a
not
little
have
bit in a way.
burst, or did he just burst too early?
Yeah, well, anyways, it's gonna have to go up against this Melt team right here, so I think head-to-head it's gonna be a little bit of an interesting decision. Seeing that right now, Team 1 is currently focused on trying to break that time under 45 seconds, and they do manage to get that shutdown on the Drake, but at the same time, though, looks like Team 2 is catching up. Looks like they are able to land a few melts, able to land a few hits early, and thankfully Rion's able to close that out with an 86k, and that's going to be a 31-second time, so that is going to be...
I mean, good Bennett positioning for burst there.
Yeah.
Ganyu was able to stay in it for most of the time. And unfortunate timing for the Ito team, so yeah, that's going to be a pretty easy win for TGT there.
Okay, and they called a flag on the play. It looks like ref element is currently not set to a element that enables Ito to function, or rather...
Oh, the Shillinen, yes.
I think it was...
I see. So we'll be a quick retry.
Yeah, it'll be a quick
the
retry.
Ito
No,
burst.
no worries.
All right.
Everyone's
So it's not called yet.
Oh, so that was where the damage went.
Yeah.
Yes,
That makes sense.
why. That makes sense. All right, so we'll get to see a quick retry in Drake here. But that's going to be a hard time to beat. 31.93 is pretty quick. I think it is beatable with the Ito team, but just barely if it is.
Should be doable. Should be doable. I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, I mean, their last clear on Drake with Farina instead of Yelan was a 31.27.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this will be a showcase of whether another DPS is stronger there or a strong buffer.
Farina C2 is kind of a DPS. According to the theater, the Genshin Impact theater sorting algorithm, Farina is a DPS.
Really?
It's true,
Yes,
but she also
you
is
click
restricted to
DPS.
2-star weapons here.
Well, she's quite literally restricted to damage per second, because she quite literally is only allowed to like attack once per second, just because the automation. But anyways,
but yeah, Farina does about half of her damage of an actual DPS, so I have a feeling that the Farina team is going to be a bit faster there. So they're going to have to play well if they want to win Drake here.
Anyways, here we go. Timer ready again, and we're going to watch as T1 is going to go ahead and try to start their Drake time up, just as Team 2 is also clearing EFG. But I want to point out, as these guys are racing against each other, Rion gets tagged, so does Foster, but it's not going to really matter too much, because they're still able to output some big damage. But unfortunately, you can't put out big damage if you miss your shots, Foster. So, that being said, they're going to have to drive and deal as much damage as they can in this little window, but unfortunately, that's going to be a double hit, and Lemmy and Foster both go down, so it's going to be Rion to solo. And man, Rion clutches that match for them. 29-15. Unfortunately, at the same time, we also happen to miss the 28-74 that this Ito team set.
28-74?
Oh, there you go. Yelan is stronger than Farina. You heard it here first.
Write that down.
Yeah. So yeah, this team comp is going to be very deadly. So last time, MMR was able to get a 34 on EFG, which again would lose them. But if this team is stronger than their team last game, then they might be able to win this, even with that really high gear resistance.
Yeah.
They thought that C2 Farina was the real problem.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, when more of your team's DPS
was an actual threat.
When more of your team's DPS is coming from Hydro, against this boss, it's gonna be valuable.
Yeah, that's a benefit, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, time to beat there. Just a little over 30 seconds. So
yeah, that 29-15 is going to be a hard one to beat. We'll have to see, though.
Alright. Seems pretty good. Ito's getting quite a few strings in there. Okay. I don't think that was too bad of RNG on Ito.
Yeah, but
I'm not experienced enough with C6, but... And there you
okay,
go.
Wait,
second burst,
second ult, yeah, that's what you need, especially right now, because if you don't have that second ult, I don't know how he's going to be doing any damage whatsoever, but they're not going to clear that 29 for sure, I'll tell you that much. They are a little behind on pace.
Some insider knowledge, I hear Sap has been farming Husk for ER pieces.
I feel like Sap has been farming Husk for a while.
Yes, but he didn't level ER pieces till now.
And we're already on to Seahorse. As I said, this should be a pretty easy win. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that
27-78.
was pretty easy, I would say, for sure.
So I think that's a pretty hard time to beat for Team 1. I highly doubt they're going to win Seahorse.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're stuck to Geo Team, I don't know. I think it might be advisable to honestly just FF.
I mean, they have full health and full bursts, though, so... Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens here. They can give it a try, at least. Geo's going to do something against the shield. And you can also just try to brute force it. Maybe that'll be enough. It's decent
some
on
big time
EFG.
teams you can run pure Hydro, Mono Hydro, and it's just Shred. Zhongli, Yelan, Xingqiu, Kazuha? Maybe that's a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a thing for Golem. I've seen it before. Teams just try to shred rather than breaking the shield on Golem. But it's not as common for
Yeah,
Seahorse.
I imagine it's... Yeah.
Because Seahorse, you know, running Pyro characters is a pretty common thing, so most teams have some Pyro.
Yeah, but they're not gonna beat that 27. Although I will say this is a really fast clear time.
That was a lot faster than I thought.
I know, right? Like all of that damage was suddenly concentrated into that 80k right there.
I mean, look at that. The red shred was incredibly fast. Not quite fast enough, but it's still incredibly impressive.
I thought that was gonna be a 45-second. Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? But 33:18. I mean, like, hey, that's still really good.
All right, is this a Shillinen or an Ito that's carrying them right now? I can't tell which, because the red shred is incredibly important on EFG and Seahorse.
They together are holding up the Yelan.
Yeah. I really wonder if there's going to be a way that this team does manage to... Oh, okay, and that's false start.
Oh.
2-second penalty, false start for touch grass together. Feel like, you know, having played this game long enough, you're gonna figure that out, but you know, it happens to everybody.
Unfortunate, but honestly, I don't think that was a false start. I think they just started and left.
Is that an intentional FF?
They just literally started and insta-DN.
Oh, that was an intentional
instant quit. Yeah, I think they just instant quit. Because they knew that Ito, Shilonen, Yelan is just gonna kill this boss instantly.
You know, honestly, I respect it. You know, tactical move. You know, you just...
I mean, that's gotta be the fastest Golem time I've ever seen. 0.99 seconds? That's impressive.
They're cooking with that one.
Quickest DNF in the West.
No kidding, but I mean, here you go. Here's your Ito showcase that everybody's been wanting to see. Here's the C6 coming out, and that's the damage you've been waiting for.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was quite a few hits on C6 there. I think that was decent RNG.
Yeah, 3096 clears a little slower than that 27 that you saw from last night. Right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, still one of the fastest Golem clears I've seen, so still very impressive.
yeah, and they're still
I
walking
wonder.
into
I hope
this
they
next
brought
match too.
bursts into the next section because there's no reason for them to rush it, right? Presumably they brought burst.
Yeah, looks like they mostly have bursts, but Yelan is not have it.
Yeah, I mean, like, not having burst on APEP second phase, especially for Yelan, can be really consequential, so... I'm not exactly sure how they're going to plan that next.
APEP might be the decider here. I think whichever team is able to clear APEP faster is going to prove to be which team has the better DPS. So, I mean, honestly, Ganyu obviously has plenty of AoE. Arlecchino has a decent amount of AoE. But at the same time, Ito does have enough AoE that I think it might be a pretty close fight.
Are we in an enemy spawn RNG situation?
It's possible.
Phase 2 APEP enemy spawn rates is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, but I will say, technically, though, it's technically, I think it is playable. I don't know, because it's not, what was it? It is a preset position. It's not necessarily just, like, random spawns.
No, that's true. Does TGT have Kazuha? Are they thinking about that?
No Kazuha.
No Kazuha. Was Kazuha banned? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, Kazuha was banned, third ban from MMR.
Okay.
I keep saying MMR instead of MRR.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I've been wondering if, like, am I just having hearing dyslexia or...
I think I'm just having talking dyslexia.
It's not was it matchmaking reputation?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah. Interesting if they go with the Chlorand here, though. Chlorand technically does have a bit more AoE than Yelan, so that might be
Get
worth
some
it.
quickens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at this point right now, we're just waiting for a character ready up. Currently, what is happening on the Team 2 side, believe it or not, I think it was an intentional false, or it actually was a false start, because now they're redoing it.
Oh.
And
Oh,
if you
and
notice,
Foster goes down.
Foster has gone down, so has Rion, and
Uh-oh.
Lemmy escapes with his burst. That's pretty much all they're able to get.
Seems like in the chat they just wanted to get ER, but that didn't quite work out.
Uh-oh.
Just
Man.
get ER followed by getting completely wiped, which is slightly counterintuitive. So
Yes, that is not the goal when you're trying to purposely DNF.
yeah, I mean, like, they're walking into this next part 2-2, right? So it's going to be a tied match between these guys. It is going to be close. I mean, yeah, Musk Reef, they definitely secured that golem time with a beautiful team like this. So now it just comes down to APAP next, and we're going to see what happens.
I mean, keep in mind, I think Team 2 can retry and win Drake. I think that they have the DPS to get a faster clear time on Drake, so that could be a decent retry. And I don't think that MRR is going to win either EFG or Seahorse on a retry. So right now, if it comes down to a 3-4, I think TGT will probably have it.
Yeah, I think it is going to have to go to overtime, though. I mean, like, the way you're looking at this, right? It's already just, like, not an optimal start for TGT, so.
Well, let's see how quickly they can kill this first phase.
Yeah, there you go. And there's a little bit of the Ito ultimate right there, capitalizing on that availability for a DPS window. I mean, APAP has a massive DPS window, which is really fortunate for it, but unfortunately, that's not a one cycle. So they're not going to get that perfect 20, 22 second time right there on APAP. But on the other side, you know, let's see if this team is able to one cycle. You got Arlecchino, you've got Ganyu, and there it is. It's going to be a little bit of a hit, but that's no big deal. Both teams now advancing at a relatively similar pace, trying to take down this big boss. But, you know, TGT is a little ahead. They have that AoE, they have that grouping, and I don't know if the Musk Reef refugees are going to be able to do that. I mean, see a nice Clorindle right there, though.
Yeah, Chlorand seems really strong here, so they might actually be able to clutch it up. But so does Arle and Ganyu. This is close. But yeah,
it's not.
MRR is about 10 seconds behind, so.
I mean, like, right now, if you look, too, their HP bars are identical, but keep in mind, TGT is actually slightly behind, so they're clearing more of the boss in the same amount of time as Musk Reef. So they had that better opener, and I think they have the better AoE, because now Touch Grass Together is, in fact, going to move on to the last stage of the boss. And the funny thing is both teams are moving on with the same timing. But again, TGT being slightly more ahead, this is not going to be the optimal position here for MRR, although they will say they got that Ito ultimate exactly where they want it, but that little iframe, that little loss in the DPS window is unfortunately not optimal for them, because Team 2, Touch Grass Together, take it home at a 130, while Musk Reef is still trying to clean it up here in the middle of the map. Ito all solo by himself, but he finds that kill and he finds a 150 for them.
Yeah, I mean, now that looking at the boss, I think that Team 2 definitely had the stronger team there, just because Ito feels like he gets countered much more by bosses that have phases like that, where you have smaller DPS windows, whereas Team 2, playing Ganyu Arle, you can kind of concentrate your DPS whenever you want it.
Yeah, especially like being able to just say like, hey, I need a melt right here, you know, and just like as long as that Arle gets pyro up for you, you know, you're pretty much set. But I think trying to get that uptime for the Shilonen might be a little more hard, but I don't know, that's just my take on it.
What are we expecting to win on Thunderbird here?
Ooh.
I don't know. I think if Team 2 can stay alive here, actually,
is this a skill diff situation?
It might be a skill diff situation, but I think even if Team 2 can stay alive here, I think Team 1 just has more DPS. Not being able to run Ganyu here is going to hurt their DPS so much, even if they're able to run the Tighnari. So I think this is going to be pretty handedly an MRR victory, but...
Are we going to Mountain King for the win?
It might be.
I feel like Mountain King
it's going to be Mountain King. It's going to be Mountain King, but then it's going to also follow up with the overtime run, so... I think they
true.
still have anyone's game right now.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Associated Press has not called this race.
Yeah, unless TGT is able to win both the last bosses, we're gonna head into overtime.
I think as all the refs are getting ready to get situated right here, trying to find a good camera angle for this, all teams are rotating over as well. So
Yeah, I mean, it seems like both teams have all their bursts, I believe. So I don't think that's going to be a particular advantage to either team. Tig is going to be pretty strong here, but I don't think it's strong enough to compete with Shilin and Ito Yalan.
does Musk Reef know what the next boss is? Oh, there they are. They're all okay. They're clumped up in that little. I was like so confused because I thought they were lost, but I think it's just the rep searching for a camera angle right now. That's all. But here we go. That's about as close as we can get it. So as we're gonna ready up both sides.
I wonder if those reaction changes are going to have any effect on this, because those overloads will be dealing slightly more damage for Team 2.
I really hope so too. I mean, like, you know, you have Arle, you have Bennett. At that point, you have to be outputting some kind of damage, right? But maybe it just loses to double Geo anyways.
Maybe it's a full EM Bennett.
True, true. I don't know how well EM would scale for overload right now, but I mean, here you go. You got Sap dealing out those normals as best as he can. Meanwhile, they're going to have to deal with this interesting setup. Note the positioning right here. Arle isn't inside the Bennett ult, although Tainari is and is able to capitalize on some of that. So unfortunately, it does look like the Muskies are able to actually output that damage much better, exactly where they need it to be. That consistency you're getting from Ito is going to secure you a good time. 34, while on the other side, Foster's down, Lemmy's down. It's up to Rion to clutch this one, but it does look like we're going to have to go into an overtime after Mountain King. We'll just have to see what the determining match is going to be. So that's again,
easily clears Mountain.
It might be a Muskie's angle, honestly, from here.
Yeah.
Again, this race was a little close.
Yeah,
especially now that they don't have Bennett burst.
Yeah, they're not gonna have Bennett burst, so that's gonna be a big hindrance. But I think if I was Rion, yeah, exactly, I was gonna get Bond and just get out. I think that's definitely the smartest play there.
That makes sense.
I think definitely getting that Bond, and because here's the thing, you don't have your Bennett buff here either.
And you don't need the Bennett burst.
Yeah, maybe just maybe this is gonna be where you make up for the damage, but that's gonna be really unfortunate. Yeah, that Thunderbird clear time is just suboptimal to say the least. As we go over and head on over to the Mountain King.
Mountain King did seem like the boss that MRR was struggling with the most in practice.
Yeah,
so I think this might be
45 seconds into Mountain King here.
Yeah, this might be a TGT win here if they have enough DPS and don't die. Some of the moves here are quite strong, so you definitely have to be careful.
Yeah, I think this was just a way tighter match than I thought it was going to be.
Early, the situation, I feel like we're looking at Foster and we're going to see, does Foster die? If Foster dies, then I think MRR sweeps. If Foster does not die...
I mean, I think the more important thing is Lemmy. Is he going to be able to get a burst up quick enough to heal himself? He's very low right now, so I think that's really what it comes down to.
Here we go, and here's Sap, here's Lin, and here's Bovo. The Musk Reef refugees demonstrating the power of Geo with their Ito.
Yeah, once again, not going with the Linny, so they're not going to be able to hit the bulbs that he spawns later in the fight. But yeah, the DPS is just not there compared to
just looking like
practice times for the other boss. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, this looks better than their practice. I'm going to be entirely honest.
It is doing better than their practice.
I think they locked in. I'm going to be entirely honest with you. Yeah, I mean, hey, they got the 2 Ito ult cycle. Perfect.
Wait,
right?
it's better. It's better than 45. It's like 40.
Yeah, are they going to beat it? I definitely think they do. Oh, just barely edging 45. But here we go. We got to watch this Melt team as they're doing their best.
Got burst real quick. Holy
yeah, I mean,
moly.
I think he switched over to Fab. I feel like that's the best option for him at this point. But
yeah, or at least a high ER build.
This is going to decide who has the advantage going into the overtime. And it does look like everybody's taking a little bit of damage except for the Arlecchino. Foster getting dropped down to a little bit lower HP, but thankfully Bennett's there.
Oh,
yeah, oh man. Having a good Bennett on your
survived.
team definitely saves you the anxiety, because that 30-17 is going to put TGT up in overtime. So now teams have 1 minute to decide who is going to go what for their retry.
Yeah, they get one more boss to just try to retry and beat the other team. If I were MRR here, I think maybe retry APEP. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they have a lot of great options for retries here.
I wonder if that clear into APEP was RNG in the first phase. Like, if that Ito one cycles APEP, does that make them within range of beating that 130?
I think it does. I think they've got a lot better chance because not phasing it instantly there, that cost them about 10 seconds from what it seemed. So that would get them a lot closer.
The alternative is what? Are we looking like... I don't think they're ever mountain kitting faster than 30.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm
if
not
there's
sure
a good
what else.
alternative. They could try to clear EFG.
I think, I think, yeah, maybe EFG, but like the gaps are so big with the times.
Yeah. Did they have bursts coming into APEP?
I think they did. They have 2.
I think they did, right? Yeah. I don't think there are any
full burst going to APEP.
characters or there are any bosses that they didn't have bursts, so...
Yeah, and like the gap between both EFG times, both Seahorse times, I mean, that's 6 seconds right there, so it's gonna be so close for Muskies.
Definitely gonna be a tough retry for them.
Absolutely.
I think for TGT here, the best retry is probably Drake.
Yeah, Drake.
If I were to
I definitely
guess.
say
Yeah.
so. I think they have to have messed something up to get a
I think TGT
31
picks
time.
Seahorse, though.
Really?
Oh, that's creative. If they did pick Seahorse, that's one of those mind read counters. Yeah, they decided on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so occasionally if you want, you can always retry a boss you already won just to stop the other team.
Yeah.
If you think the other team's going to retry Seahorse, then retrying Seahorse and making sure that they can't win
So
could be smart, but I don't know.
So
That's
here's what
something
I'm
I would go
thinking.
for.
I think at this point, it actually does come down to whether or not the Musk Reef refugees are able to win their retry on Seahorse. Because if they beat out that 27-second time that Team 2 has, then they actually have like a little bit of a chance, you know? Because remember, Team 2 still has to do their retry. If they pick that retry and they have to retry against a 26-second time and they fail, that's a loss. So
Oh my god.
a bit of a
I don't
gamble.
know if this... Here I go. I'm doubting the Ito. I don't know if it can do 26.
I mean,
we'll have to see.
I don't think they have an option, right?
Oh,
I
jeez.
think it's probably the best option here.
So now it's going to come down to Sap, Lin, and Bobo facing off against the Millennial Pearl Seahorse to decide whether or not they advance.
One last weapon check just to make sure. Looks good.
Believers rise. So true. MRR win.
This is your team right here, Kurt. You know,
Win.
you put all the
Let's
marbles
spend
on.
All right, last minute bets. Everybody put in your last minute bets.
Ooh, and here we go. Opens off with the Yelan E into the Shalonen E and Yelan Q. Ito looks like he already popped his Q, decides he wants to use it early. Maybe it's going to be able to get him back later. Because remember, they do want to brute force the boss. They're just going to go ahead and go straight through it. So it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. But here we go. I mean, 16 seconds in. I don't think this is looking like a 27-second clear, though. Because that pacing isn't optimal. But the Ito burst coming out might just be in the nick of the time. But it can't find it under 27 seconds. And TGT are going to be moving on to the semifinals.
GG's. Wow. Really close match here, though. That was some amazing gameplay from MR. We got to see some more Ito. I was fully expecting that TGT was gonna ban the TGT was gonna ban the Ito there, but we got to see some more gameplay. So
yeah, I mean,
fun.
you saw exactly how strong it was, right? I mean, it's only functional if you turn him into a hyper carry, but you know, you remove his asset, which is Farina, you lose out the damage bonus. And GG's from all of Team 1. Beautiful sportsmanship. We appreciate you guys.
Kristen is asking how much crit did Ito miss. Kristen wants that double overtime.
yeah, I mean that's one of the risky things about playing Ito as well. Is his C6 is just so incredibly RNG. So I wasn't counting each swing that he got there. So I'm not sure if it did come down to luck at the end. But that's what you end up with when you run such a risky character like that.
Again, someone explain this to me. Am I stupid? Why is there a no ban? Is that a thing you can do for benefit?
I mean,
No,
yeah.
I think
well,
it was just mostly they just forgot to ban in time.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say though, like, I think there is technically a strategy to it because, like, if you leave a ban open, it's like a bait almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're leaving it
I mean,
open
they
for
could have
movement.
banned. Personally, I would have banned Kave there. I think that would have been the strongest pick there. Just make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
they
true.
can't use
Emotional
it.
damage.
Yeah, no. There's a genuine concept I like to talk about called mental HP. If you don't have enough mental HP, you can't win a fight. You actually just lose a match if you run out of mental HP.
I feel like banning Kave would enrage Lin, though. He might just do more damage.
Oh, true. You go
Give him
either way. You know what I'm
power.
saying? But
Shilin
yeah,
would start hitting 60Ks all of a sudden.
yeah.
Yeah.
But GG's to touch grass together. Yeah, that was honestly a pretty fun match. What do you have to say?
It disappeared from the
I know.
thing.
Wait, where'd you go?
I'm gone. I died.
Yeah, well, it'll be a fun
semi.
semifinals. That's gonna
MRR
be...
died and MRR lost, and now I'm removed from the screen.
Hi, there you are.
Oh.
Well, you're a little spirit now. How's that sound?
Well, I mean, now it's gonna really stink to cast though. That semifinals game, that's gonna be TGT
Oh no,
versus
it's
TSG.
Oh my, yeah. What are we gonna say? The
But,
grass,
I mean,
grass touchers?
Gas Touchers versus Saina's Travelers. Yeah, I don't know, but it's gonna be
yeah.
a very fun match to watch. At least those are
Oh, yeah. I'm
two
excited for that
really
one.
insane teams that
Yeah.
are both ranked veterans. So I'm excited for that.
So coming up on our schedule as well, we happen to have next week at 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday, we will get to see our number 1 seed Noblesse Oblige face off against Pixel Dismissal. And that's also going to be a really exciting match. I mean, you're talking about the best team in the league right now, under prelim times at least, but they have a good roster too. So if anything, I would stay tuned and look out for them. Any other statements to add, Joe, man?
All I know is I'm excited for my game right after the next day, DXC versus VSG.
Yeah, the
I'm really
very
hoping the
scuffed
Fire
gamers, huh,
win
Joe, man?
Certainly.
Very
I think we're
scuffed
living up.
gamers.
I think we're living up to that name as we are right now, but I think we might be able to pull out a win. But yeah, Noblesse Oblige versus Pixel. That'll be an interesting one. Noblesse Oblige only has 3 people on their team. They weren't able to get that 4th, so they don't quite have as much flexibility as some other teams. But I think they still have the advantage there. So we'll see if Pixel's able to upset that match.
Did he put the bracket on the screen?
Oh yeah, 1 second. We'll go ahead and tap back over to that. So the bracket is going to be this. So it does look like the advancing teams are going to be decided by Noblesse versus Pixel, DXC versus VSG, and now it would be Touch Grass together who would have moved up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Versus TST.
But that's going to be a hot match to watch as well. I mean, TST very draft intensive, TGT much more gameplay intensive. So we'll have to see how that goes. Although I will say the gameplay performance from TGT today might not have been up to their standards. So I'm really
A battle
curious
of
to know.
ideals.
Yeah, a battle of ideals, right? So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm Cuddles, and thank you for coming to Genshin Ranked. We look forward to
Bye.
seeing you again next week.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.